It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
Here's our hot take. Wealthy people do actually pay taxes.
Yeah, this one, I can't wait to get the feedback on this, because this one was something that I struggled with initially too, because I grew up in a household where my father, if y'all know, my father's passed away now, but he passed away when I was in my 20s. And he's like my hero. If you ever come to my office, you'll see all the great things he accomplished. You know, he was Spurrier's left tackle down at University of Florida. I mean, his funeral had people from all over the country show up because he was just an incredible man. And but here's one thing that I grew up with was my father would be like, son, wealthy people got all the breaks. They know ways to get out of the taxes. And they just don't. It's against the working man. I mean, I grew up with this, and then I believed it, and I bought it, and then I graduated from college with an accounting degree. Started working for a CPA firm, and I worked at a CPA firm where I got to not only do audit work, but I also got to do tax preparation work. So I did tax prep for 16 years. And here was a big shocking moment for me. I can still remember the phone call that I called my dad. And I was like, Dad, I'm doing a lot of tax returns. Guess what? These folks pay a lot of taxes.
They make a lot of money.
I was like, yes, they make good money, but these business owners, they pay a ton. I mean, you wouldn't believe how much taxes these people pay. So, I mean, it's one of those things where I think that we're told this, and I don't know if it's just because the media has this narrative. And I'm going to tell you, by the way, y'all are going to be like, oh, he's this old man on the front porch. His boomer is telling us. No, I'm going to tell you how they get away with telling you this stuff, because there are some asterisks. There's some caveats. And I'm going to tell you the secret to how wealthy people don't pay taxes. So the next time you see an article where they're like soak the rich, you can say, okay, does this person fit in this category, or do they fit in that category that Brian and Bo talked about, which are the true scoundrels that are taking advantage of the system? But this is the thing I want you to understand, that if you hang around enough business owners and people who make money, the lion's share are paying a lot of taxes.
Yeah, let's look at the actual data, the actual hard numbers. What you can see is this is data compiled from the IRS and the Tax Foundation. 50% of taxpayers, the top 50% of income earners, actually pay 97% of the total income collected. So if income tax collected. So if you look at the highest earners across the top 50% of the population, they're paying the vast majority of the total number of income tax. And you can see if you're out listening on iTunes or Spotify, iHeartRadio, you can actually see the chart which shows the top 1% of earners, 5% to 1%, 10% to 5%, and so on. So a big majority of total income taxes are paid by higher earners.
Yeah, I think let's get actually, because just in case you are listening to this while you're vacuuming, working out, whatever, and you can't get right to the chart. I thought it was very surprising that the top 1% that made only 20% of the earnings actually paid over 40% of the taxes. That was kind of shocking to me. I mean, it was to think about that top 1%. We hear about the 1% all the time. They make 20% of the income, but they pay 40% of the taxes. That's not something you hear on the nightly news, or you hear when somebody's telling you how the system's rigged.
That's exactly right. If you even go to a more contract, because you said, okay, guys, well, you're talking about like the top 50%. Well, let's get more granular than that. Let's get a little more specific. If you actually look at the top 10% of earners in this country by income, they actually pay 70% of all federal income tax collected in the United States. So 70% of the total tax bill is footed by the top 10% of earners. So it is not an accurate or true statement to say that wealthy people or high earners do not pay their taxes. Now, this is what you're alluding to earlier, Brian. Are there some exceptions? Are there some unique things that take place that maybe do make the spidey senses go off a touch?
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about the outliers, because this is the way you can always spot who's actually not paying taxes, and this is who the media loves to hold out. It's not your local business owner. It's not your local manufacturer. It's typically, pay attention to this part, because this is who, when you listen to the news media talk about it, you'll be able to apply this filter and be like, oh, I kind of get it now. I see how these people are escaping their obligation and not paying their fair share of the taxes. If the person's income, the source of it, the geographic location of the income creation is very gray, And look, we live in a world now where a lot of these billionaires are making their money through technology, the cloud. Where is the cloud? I mean, seriously, where is the cloud? It's one of those things. That's why when you hear where the IRS is going after an Amazon or an Apple or something like that, it's because they're using safe havens in Ireland and so forth. That's what's happening, is that these billionaires and others are using the ability, the grayness or the inability to know exactly where the income creation occurred to their benefit.
That's right.
Now, run that through the filter. Think about the business down the road. I grew up in McDonough, Georgia. The largest, now it's closed now, but the largest factory in town then was Snapper Mowers.
Oh yeah, the lawnmowers,
which was the lawnmowers. Now look, they're gone, but at the time when Snapper Mowers was what everybody wanted, that ugly turtle riding lawnmower in their yard, when you see all the idealistic pictures of what the 70s and 80s looked like when we were wearing our racing stripes and bell bottoms and all the other stuff. That business was paying probably a lot of taxes, because if we knew where they were manufacturing that riding lawnmower, and it's just like your service providers right down the street, your accountants, your attorneys. You know where they live. You know where they're creating their wealth. I mean, there's even like the IRS chases around professional athletes because they know when you played that football game. So every state, well, I said the IRS, but really it's the state taxing authorities follow these athletes around. They do the same thing, I'm sure, to Justin Bieber and others. So if they know where you are and they know where you create the wealth, you don't get out of the taxation. But a lot of the technology companies are taking advantage of this. And that's why you hear about Jeff Bezos. We hear it because they'll do a headline be like, Jeff Bezos doesn't pay income taxes. He's totally milking a lot of this. That's why I made the joke before we went live. Amazon Prime Day, the day we're recording this, I'm sure because they're selling stuff so cheap. I guess Jeff is putting all the tax savings and doling it out to everybody through Amazon Prime Day. It's also, Amazon does this through tax credits, through playing the international game. This could go on and on and on.
So you've already said that, all right, there are billionaires or there are people in a certain sphere that do some maybe gray stuff in terms of source of income and how they do that. But what do the average, everyday, normal, wealthy people do? Well, there's something that they recognize, right? And what I love is you guys are financial mutants, because as the live chat is going on, you guys are throwing this stuff in there. You guys are mentioning terms like, real estate depreciation or qualified dividends. You're saying all the right stuff. Here's what you have figured out. Tax evasion is illegal. It will get you locked up. It will get you put in jail. You can go ask, who's your favorite reference here for tax evasion that gets locked up? Wesley Snipes, right? Like that was the one. Or Al Capone, or fill in the blank.
Willie
right?
Nelson.
Willie Nelson. There's all kinds of folks. Tax evasion is illegal. However, tax avoidance is highly encouraged. We have an entire tax system structured around the ability for folks that are willing to do the little bit extra to begin avoiding taxes. And most of us, whether we're wealthy or not, don't even recognize it. Some of the great tax avoidance strategies that exist for all of us are contributing to retirement accounts. If you make the decision to put money in a pre-tax basis into a 401k or into a 403b or into a 457, you are in fact doing this. You actually are avoiding taxation. If you're someone who itemizes the deductions on your tax return, you are maximizing your ability to do tax avoidance. I think that what we see a lot of are wealthy people understand these things. They understand how they can use the tax system to their advantage. They still pay a lot of taxes, but their goal is to pay no more than they absolutely have to through the structures that are in place that we can all take advantage of.
Yeah, and we left the last one because I gave you the filter of that if they don't know where your money, the income is actually generated, it creates this gray zone. The other one is the type of income source. And a lot of people, I'm sure, in the comment section are talking about, because if they're throwing out real estate and other things, the capital structure. Ordinary income, that's like your small business, just what you make for creating goods, or doing your service in the community. That's taxed at ordinary income. Your wages are taxed at ordinary income. Your retirement income is typically taxed at ordinary income. All those things are going to be at the highest tax brackets. So that's what I'm saying. It's you, the worker, it's the retirees, and it's the small business owners that are footing the bill on a lot of the taxes. Now, if you're an investor, that's what I'm saying, is that tax evasion is illegal. tax avoidance. And that's why you see a lot of people, and this is your goal, and this is what I was telling a whole group of entrepreneurs, your goal is to take your small business, your wages, and all that you're creating at the higher tax rate and try to get to the point that you can invest into things that are taxed at a much more favorable way, like capital investments. That's what, when you invest in the financial markets, that's a capital investment. When you buy a building or do rental property, that's a capital asset. And those are the type of things they have much more favored tax treatment, whether we're talking about the depreciation you get to take, which is a thing you get to take a deduction on, but it doesn't actually impact your cash flow. So you actually are getting, it's a way to lower your income taxes legally. These things are all good is because it's part of the process, because you took after-tax money, invested it. And this is how Warren Buffett, you guys know, we love to quote Warren. We even call him Uncle Warren. Instead of the Oracle from Omaha, we just call him Uncle Warren.
Because he's like family for me.
Yeah, we talk about him all the time. But Warren, it does crack me up. He gets himself in such pretzels sometimes that there's even been articles on this where Warren tells everybody, man, I pay taxes at a lower at a lower rate. Listen to the way he does the logistics or this syntax of this whole statement. I pay taxes at a lower rate than my secretary. Mm-hmm. I always chuckle a little bit to myself when I hear that, because the way he can say that is because he's taxed not through his wages. Mm-hmm. He's taxed at his capital investments. Well, he's paying his secretary a wage, and he's probably, sounds like he's paying her pretty good. Yeah. So she's at a higher tax rate. But the thing is that if you look at the way Warren structures all of his businesses, there's a reason Berkshire Hathaway doesn't do dividends. Mm-hmm. They're not paying out dividends. They buy back their shares all the time. All these things are really tax avoidance structures that he's doing. But here's the thing, even if you're as smart as Uncle Warren is, where you're trying to avoid taxes at all costs, even though you're out there, trumpeting that you think wealthy people should pay more taxes, Berkshire Hathaway still in 2019 and 2020 accounted for 1.5% of all federal government corporate tax receipts. So
one single entity covered 1.5% of all tax receipts. That's unbelievable, the amount of tax.
So it shows even with these corporate structure, this capital structure where it's at a favored tax rate because you're using investment dollars and capital appreciation, he's still paying a lot of taxes.